This is a massive allegation from a former insider, James Goddard. Mr. Goddard is alleging Tommy Robinson has used the N-word to describe Afro-Caribbean people. We know Tommy has a history when it comes to slurs. This has the potential to further carve up the dwindling supporter base of the Civnats in and around Yaxley Lennon, Anne-Marie Waters and Golding. James Goddard states, I bet Glen Sugarpuff Teeth Saffer is absolutely fuming. Not only has Tommy called black people naggers, he's also said the word retard. I wonder, will Sugarpuff Teeth start going on live streams slagging Lil Tommy off? The rest of Mr. Goddard's comment is about Big Kev and Ricky Doolan's debate with Miss Towler of Patriotic Alternative. We may offer some commentary on that debate in the future, but for now, let's stick to Mr. Goddard's allegation of Mr. Robinson using the N word and the R word. We would require more information from Mr. Goddard on this allegation. We do have a video of Mr. Robinson using the word which offends Glen Saffer, but Glen Saffer is servile and obedient to Mr. Robinson, so I doubt he will make any waves. He knows his place. He knows his place is to wait on Mr. Robinson, sans pay, all gratis. It's just basically volunteer work. There's no share of the donation money when it comes to folks like Glen Saffer. They seem quite content in feeling important in marshalling folks on the various social media sites and wearing high visibility vests at the events. Mr. Goddard should not hold his breath waiting for Mr. Saffer to rebuke Tommy.
So I confirm all those things because I read 2 comments from members of staff online at Centre Parks who said this did happen, but the man has learning difficulties or the man's retarded. No, but one of the men who were with him did look like a totally something wrong with them.
Vinny, the lot of you, if you're going to stand by people calling people retards, right? Because I'm coming on the streets, Goddard, to meet you, mate. Calling someone retards, mate. I'll take offence to that, mate. I will take offence to that. You like the word called retard as well, do you? Huh? Huh? Do you think that's clever, using the word retard at this day and age?
That's because there's a ton of inconsistency around the Tommy camp. Saffer sat by whilst Mr. Robinson claimed to be pro-free speech and used that free speech to push his talking points that his handlers probably gave him about the group that he normally targets, Muslims, right? And that was all under the guise of free speech. But Mr. Saffer is the first one to cry when his sensitivities are hurt, and he's the first one to call for political correctness to stop folks from offending him. So he's willing to throw aside free speech in this case. But he's meant to be an advocate for free speech, so there's a double standard here. The same applies when folks like David Duke or Alison Chabloz, they get censored. None of these people advocate for them. Hearts of Oak would never advocate for Duke or Alison. I wonder why. Is it because their free speech is about a certain group that they wish not to be criticised?
I'm telling you now, I'm fucking Jewish, right?
I'm Jewish!
Shalom everybody. If you could just please send a kind donation.
And that's the same group that Wiley fell foul of when he criticised them on Twitter. He's lost his Twitter account. He's lost his Instagram account. Hearts of Oak will not be advocating for him. I'm pretty confident of that, even though they claim to be a free speech platform and free speech advocates. There's loads of examples of hypocrisy amongst them. For instance, Mr. Robinson said many of his Afro-Caribbean mates stopped speaking to him as they were offended by what he said in his rant against BLM. That's ironic. There's some irony there. If these mates of his are real, I would call them hypocrites. They sat around Mr. Robinson whilst he spouted about Muslims and made a wealthy living from it, but as soon as they perceived Mr. Robinson aiming some of that venom at their identity group, they split from him. What does that say about them? Mr. Robinson's probably better off not having them around him. The same would apply in the example of Josiah Hobbs. Josiah Hobbs and others who basically realized many of Tommy's talking points on Muslims could be applied to other groups, such as the Blues. As soon as that was pointed out, there was a massive fallout. In the case of Miss Hobbs, she got censored and had to leave TR News. So much for free speech, right? Who's going to be advocating for the free speech of Miss Hobbs? The same happened to the late Simon Harris. He wasn't kicked out of TR News. He was not part of them in some official capacity, but he was ostracized as he was loosely connected to that movement at one stage. Other examples would include them refusing to cover the British woman in Cyprus who alleged to be the victim of an Israeli grooming gang. We all know if that group was Arabs, Mr. Robinson and co would have flew out to Cyprus on donation dime to go and report on it. In fact, there's loads of examples like this. Smart people will be able to bring up loads of examples, and I'm sure decent IQ listeners would be able to rattle off a few other examples. Tommy's former colleague got zero assistance, absolutely no assistance at all from the TR camp, the Sivnat camp, when his daughter was approached by a person, and I use that word in the loosest fashion, a person. I wonder why there was no support here.
Alright, my 11-year-old girl was approached by a man, a white male. Right, this is a serious thing, okay? On Monday the 16th, alright, my 11-year-old girl was approached by a man, a white male, 40 to 45, blue eyes, grey hair, okay, driving a black car. We don't have more details than that at the moment. Basically, that description comes from what my little girl had given, and thank God she got that much information. Obviously, she was scared. This man or beast, okay, had said to her to get into the car. Obviously, through everything that, especially her mother's done, more so we are separated. But you know what we've taught her in her life. She sort of carried on walking. Her friends did that were with her as well.
Your 8-year-old daughter had her bum groped by one of 3 middle-aged Muslim men.
No. So there was 3 men is what I saw of him. 2 of them were white, 1 Asian.
But she said him, Daddy. She pointed at a man. It was an Asian male. To be honest, I doubt. I don't think
they always
he is
call
a
him Asian.
I don't think
they
he
always
is
call
a
him Asian.